is it just me, or does the morale of the country just feel extremely low? We're going to get into that today. I went to this event called Freedom Fest. I'll tell you why I think that is. From the fires progressing down in Aspen Forest and now to plain view shots of it. It actually looks very bad from above, and I've been wanting to see what it looks like from the actual view. It's extremely sad what is happening again with these fires. So Colorado was not really able to shoot any fireworks, and they weren't supposed to, although some people still did. You could hear it here and there, but it was actually quite impressive what people can do when they get together and they rally on the same idea, because the majority of the town did not shoot off fireworks. And kudos to all the people who didn't, because that's what I think is important, is we all care about one another, and that's why we don't. And yes, I think if you were shooting off the fireworks, that's kind of selfish, considering there's people's homes being burned down right now, and it could have lit a fire anywhere nearby. Also, Freedom Fest, there was this band called Ex-Ambassadors that I seen there. I will tell you a little bit about that, and again contributes about what I'm saying when I'm saying the morale of the country just seems low in general. Also, we will look at or talk a little further about Project Taurus and the AI data center and the update I have for you on that. So let's get into it. So as I mentioned about the morale of the country just being extremely low, it really does feel that way. It looks that way, and I feel that way personally. From, as I mentioned, the teen takeovers, the violence, to the fires, and then the administrative gaslighting, it's just not a good look. However, I think when Marjorie Taylor Greene said this in her expo, she was just spot on with this is what needs to happen. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, when people get together, there is something spectacular about it and powerful. Again, this is what they don't want people to recognize, is that we do have power in our numbers and togetherness. And here is what she said. The GOP is a disaster. The Republican Party hijacked MAGA, pretended to be America First and MAHA, and then sold us all out. Then Trump rubber-stamped the entire con job while taking checks from literally everyone. America First needs to go 1776 on the neocon Epstein-controlled Republican Party, and MAHA needs to burn the bridge to the effing ground. And I do think that there is some truth in that. And mind you, I am not proposing violence. As I've said, I believe words are more powerful than violence, but I do still believe in peaceful protesting, even though it seems like we're on the brink of that point not being possible anymore because of the extreme gaslighting, and the administration is not taking the warnings from the public and what people are actually feeling, which is most important. As I've mentioned, there's still change that can happen, from going to change.org and actually signing petitions and creating gatherings and making changes on a local level. I was actually a bit disappointed in myself, because this is a little side tangent, that I missed voting when it came to June 30th for the Colorado midterm election, which is going to be the election that is going to be on the official ballot. So I was very sad about that, because I had been texting many friends to vote, and I am always talking about it, and then I happened to miss the date because I thought it was in November, which that's accurate, and November is for the official ballot, but June 30th was for the names to be on the official ballot. So I dropped the ball on that one. I apologize, Colorado, for my vote not counting. I really wanted it to, but it's looking pretty grim considering the Republican Party was extremely separated. It has 3 candidates, and I'm gonna have to get an update on that because when I last looked, Barbara Kirkmeyer was just slightly ahead of Victor Marx, and I truly hope that Victor Marx does not get in because I do believe that he is a fraud and that there is something extremely wrong with, his background, the gaslighting statements, and the deflection tactics that he seems to use to try to get out of anything that would make him look bad. And you could see that in an interview. I mentioned that before, but I do think it's really important for us all to get involved. I also am going to check out a meetup group, which will be for conservatives to get together, because again, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I don't really want this to be a place of separation. However, I personally do have more conservative traditional viewpoints, and I think that that can make the country better. But I don't want to say that I'm Democrat or Republican because I really don't want to identify with either, because both parties are in cahoots to actually destroy the country, it seems. And so I am not a part of destroying the country. I want to be conservative and have traditional values and actually make things better again. And not make America great, because again, that name has now been just thrown out the window because they diminished it way too much. So back to what I was expressing, how the morale of the country is extremely low right now. When I went to this event called Freedom Fest, it was really apparent in the people around. There was this band on stage called Ex Ambassadors, and the performance was, it was okay. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of their music, but it also seemed like the performance was fake, because maybe he was actually singing, but the guitarist and maybe the pianist were not doing the actual music on stage. There was actually a guy behind me who called it out, and he was like, look, the pick is still where it was at. And I do agree, because there was a part where it's like getting all intense and you would think his fingers are gonna go crazy, but instead it was like, just, I don't know, it didn't look like it was actually playing. Anyway, besides the point, when I was looking around, it was actually quite grim and disappointing to see how many people looked emotionless walking around, where it feels like they had no purpose in life. And then it's like, yeah, we're all here for a concert, but it's insane to think that so many more people are actually motivated to hear about how to change the country and why it's such a great place to be in, instead of this music, which is already sad, doesn't really mean anything. And it's like just a moment for people to drink and have a good time. But that also goes into more what I'm thinking is that these people were playing sad songs on a military base, Fort Carson, when the suicide rates are known for being extremely high in the military already. So it's like the morale of the country is already low. There's wars that people are in disagreement with. And then, yes, there's this 14-point deal, so we can say that it's over, but is it really over? We'll see, considering they lied 38 times about it, maybe 39 in technicality. And now it's just sad to see so many people walking around with, it seems like their souls don't have a place to park. And even while I was there, I was so sad because, I genuinely say this, I'm not trying to grift. All of my friends, I talk about Charlie Kirk so often because he actually had a huge part in changing my life. And I went back to church because of it. I got saved by the Lord and pulled by all of his death. And so I just am super grateful and saddened that his wisdom has been taken. But I do believe that he was a true patriot, and that's part of the reason the morale is so low, because people were so excited to hear wisdom from a man who is speaking about God and bettering this country than music could do, than a UFC event can do, than any, monster trucking event or whatever it be, 4th of July, fireworks, drone shows. It doesn't matter because nobody cares. It's not important. And so I just, want to see change in America and bring the morale back slightly, to do something. Because if you do get involved in politics, I still stand by what I say, even though it is seeming like your vote won't count or there's just so much corruption that you can't do anything. I just don't see that as being the best option, because if you just bow out, well, then obviously evil's going to take over. It's kind of like, just let the fires continue and they'll just keep growing, because if you're not actually trying to mitigate anything, it's not going to change. So we have to change and be the light in the darkness, which we're called to do. If you're Christian and if you're not, you should definitely explore those options, because God can really transform your life. A 180, which was so true for me. My music changed. I stopped smoking weed. Life just got better, and supernatural peace has now happened to me, where I'm just really grateful to be alive. But I also am not necessarily afraid to lose this life, not because I'm suicidal, but because I care about the Lord. And I actually have some clips of the concert here, or at least the people, because really I just kind of wanted to take some quick videos of people walking around so you could get an idea of the vibe of the place. There wasn't a lot of jumping and cheering. There was a few spurts of it, but that was due to the prompted engagement of the lead singer, which props to him to being able to engage a crowd that, is clearly just kind of demotivated. Now, on to the next topic. I wanted to discuss the update with the AI data center, Project Taurus, as I keep talking about. Taurus, I don't really know how to pronounce it. I don't really care. You could just Google it. Well, they updated, and I guess the address has now changed, when before it was supposed to be at a location that I mentioned in a previous video. But I am glad to hear, because they actually updated the address for the fact that so many people are interested in this that they had to get a bigger place. The now current address and date will be July 23rd at the Shockley Zalabak Theater at the ENT Center for the Arts, located at 5225 North Nevada Avenue. Now, I am going to go myself. I have booked this on the calendar. I find it important, and I think that we don't see enough talk about this. There's a couple news channels that cover it, and the Gazette, which is like the local news channel or business that's here in Colorado. But something else that I wanted to mention, I did actually request for the financial benefits document to be released to me. They sent it to me through the core request, which I have talked about. And what I find interesting is it seems to definitely exaggerate the project snapshot estimate of how many permanent operating positions there will be. It says 95 permanent operation positions, but I'm not sure if that's really going to be true, considering if you listen to Tommy G in this video here, there is a guy who was working at the facility, and he said that it pretty much runs itself after a certain point. So who's to say how long they'll actually keep those people, or why would they even want to if it's pretty much self-run? And I know that there was a graph I had showed before where the people who were in approval of the data centers, it was because of jobs. Well, that is kind of a misconception because it doesn't really bring a whole lot of jobs. Temporarily, yes, but you want to bring long-term jobs to your city, not short-term, and then it's like, oh, you're seasonal, kind of like what Amazon does. They always hire, fire with their 100 to 150% turnover rate. So, for example, as I was just talking about with the jobs, it says that there's an estimated 1,650 construction jobs that this will bring, and then it says following 245 average permanent jobs, but right in the page before it says 95 permanent operation jobs. So it's like, which is it then? Because unless they're trying to say that they're two different positions, one says permanent operation positions and then the other one says 245 average permanent jobs, so it doesn't really make sense and it's not necessarily clear. So the estimated economic benefit is $1.7 billion, but that is over a 15-year operational impact, which is not that much if you think about it. For 15 years, and the city is willing to take water, deplete the resources, and destroy the agriculture nearby, all for $1.7 billion over 15 years. Of course, power with this type of facility is really the biggest issue. Water and the power, raising the electric bills and just affecting the grid. As you can see here, there's already been news channels that are covering the fact that places like Virginia are known for having the most AI data centers, have now had to request or demand that the AI data centers need to shut off because they need to be able to have people in the city cooling their house. And it's like, it seems that America is leaning towards this corporate first instead of Americans first, the people that are actually here in the city. So I recently watched this movie. It's a 2012 film called The Lorax, and some of my friends were telling me it's honestly a documentary, and after watching it, I can definitely see why they say that. And it is just weird considering that was in 2012, and the Lorax is about this guy who builds a machine and is cutting down all the trees, and then they make this walled city, which kind of seems like the same thing almost with the AI data centers, and in general them cutting down a lot of the trees for farming or whatever they do, or to just simply build these buildings, and then now there's a concrete facility there and no agriculture, and it gets sad. Not saying that the most important thing is agriculture, because I do care about the environment and the planet, but I also want to make it known that I definitely don't worship it like a god. We were given dominion over, animals and the agriculture, but I do think we are still called to respect it. And this definitely doesn't feel like respect. It feels like they're respecting money while we're all trying to make sure that we're going to be alive in 20 years and that children will have water in 50 years. So it's just getting crazy out here. I will say I do find it difficult to really stay on one topic at a time. I'm trying to improve on that because it is just, with so much information out there, it's really hard to stay on the one topic. So I'm really proud and grateful for these people that are making a difference, such as Tommy G, Ian Carroll, Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. And if you, again, haven't checked them out, please give them an option or an opportunity to prove themselves. At least listen to one video, not a clip, not a 15 seconds, not even 5 minutes. Listen to a whole in context video, and I think opinions will be made. Like, you don't have to like someone all the way. For example, I really think Nick Fuentes is a twerp, but a lot of people seem to like him. I think he's a horrible representation for men and what men should become in society, because it just is kind of furthering the the war between men and women, that it's like, oh, it's all men, no, it's all women, and this and that. Really, it's both parties. Both people have their part to play in this, and I am just tired of people that are really despising of one side or the other, whether it be male, female, Nick Fuentes, or I don't even know a female who does that, because I don't watch that kind of stuff, because I'm not that kind of lady. And I think it's bad for society in general, because if we just hate one another, or you think they're bad, well, it's supporting the depopulation agenda, which we will get into eventually. As like I said, I'm still trying to maintain the topics I've been discussing, and there is a part in the Committee of 300 book that just was so deep, and it shows everything that is happening now. I'm not sure when I'm gonna be able to make that video or have time to, because I will say that this is extremely time consuming, but I enjoy it. I think it's important, and I hope you all get something out of it. So we'll continue down that path. I hope you all had a good 4th, as I mentioned. Stay, safe and thoughtful of the fires with the droughts around in any state you're in, regardless of if it's Colorado. I just hope that many of you will join for the event, the hearing that's going to be happening with the Project Taurus, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Wednesday. Bye, guys.